Hello, friends. I'm wondering, did any of y'all follow the Murdaugh murders? That was a little too gruesome for me, but I did follow the peripheral afterwards of Becky Boo Hill, the clerk of court. Let me show you a little news clip to get you up to date on what's going on with Miss Becky Boo.
New twist in the case of Murdaugh, the outspoken court clerk now under fire after writing a book about the trial and the Murdaugh family.
So this county clerk in Murdaugh's murder trial had already been in the spotlight. His attorneys said she tampered with the jury, which she and prosecutors deny. But now there's this new controversy. She wrote that book about the trial and now seems to admit that some of the words in that book were stolen.
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
In the aftermath of that bombshell trial, Becky Hill co-wrote Behind the Doors of Justice, the Murdaugh Murders, in which she details her role in the trial and her decades-long personal relationship with the Murdaugh family. But she's now accused of plagiarizing a section of that book.
I was shocked, disappointed, sad.
Neil Gordon is the book's co-author. He says he discovered what he called the ethical gaffe while reviewing thousands of Hill's emails that had been released to reporters through Freedom of Information Act requests.
She said that she felt like she was under a lot of deadline pressure, and she remembered that that particular article was on her email.
This screenshot shows in February, Hill received a lengthy excerpt of an article by a BBC journalist about the trial. It appears Hill copied from it directly for the opening of the book, prompting Gordon to publicly apologize to the BBC and the reporter.
I decided to look at our book because the words were very familiar to me, and sure enough, it was the preface of our book. I was sick to my stomach.
Hill has spoken openly about the Murdaugh trial on numerous occasions, including giving an interview in a Netflix documentary series about the case. In a statement responding to these new allegations, Hill's attorneys say she's deeply remorseful for this unfortunate lapse in judgment, and this comes just months after Murdaugh's attorneys had accused Hill of jury tampering, saying she pressured jurors to reach a quick verdict in hopes of securing a book deal for herself.
And Becky Hill's attorneys say she has reached out to that BBC journalist to personally apologize. This book had been self-published. It was only available through Amazon and Audible, but both authors now say it has since been unpublished.
So I have a copy of the book. I bought it immediately whenever this news came out before they got it unpublished. And yeah, it's quite interesting. There's a lot in there that really makes you wonder if the attorneys for Murdaugh are right when they say that the jurors are pressured. Now, that's an attorney's job to find any kind of reason to get their client off. And so I didn't really think that much of it at first whenever the news of that first came out, until we find out that Becky literally plagiarized her book, part of it at least. That's a really direct choice to do something wrong. And so now, like they said on the news, her credibility is in the trash can. So it's really, really wild. Now, while I've been talking about this, I've had screenshots from an article about the deal playing in the background. And here's a part where they talk about her relationship with news reporters who would come in. She would email Nancy Grace, "Hello, sweet Nancy Grace, and always make sure to get her a seat," and blah, blah, blah. And Nancy Grace actually wrote her a little foreword to her book. Let me show you. So here you can see Nancy Grace says, "From beginning to end, here is the true story from one who saw it all." Well, at least some of those words were written by a BBC journalist who wasn't even there. And you can also see, if you look back through the screenshots that I've had going up on this article, that Becky has a long career of being very respected and doing respectable things. It really seems like she got super starstruck, but it's just strange that she did get starstruck enough to make deliberate choices to steal and do wrong, at least in one instance with the plagiarism. And as you'll see later, possibly more. She's under investigation for more things. Now let me show you a few clips of Becky Boo herself talking about the jury.
We went to Moselle at the very end of the trial. That was very telling. And just by observation, I knew that the verdict was already pretty sealed when we went to Moselle. There wasn't going to take much, and I knew it wasn't going to take long for them to come to a decision about a verdict.
Well, that's right. Becky Hill admitted to taking the reporting of a journalist from the BBC and passing it off as her own in her book. Hill's co-author Neil Gordon says sales of that book have now been suspended. And although we checked on Amazon late this afternoon and the book was still available for purchase, Gordon said he was, quote, blindsided by Hill's actions. And in a statement from Hill's attorneys, she admitted to the allegations, claiming she was under pressure with tight deadlines.
Anything that chisels away her credibility, gives a bad impression.
Okay, so now we get to the part that I mentioned before where I said once we know that she made that decision to plagiarize these other accusations, not just from Murdaugh's lawyers, but from her county, make you raise an eyebrow. Let's take a look.
Former Colleton County Clerk of Court Becky Hill. The State Ethics Commission has charged Hill with 76 counts of using her official position for financial gain, among other allegations. So how much money are we talking about? Our senior investigative reporter Ann Emerson is here, and she's going through these allegations. And what have you found?
Well, according to our calculations, Becky Hill is accused of misspending nearly $20,000 out of the clerk's office funds. She was supposed to oversee that money, not use it however she wanted. In multiple counts laid out by the commission, Hill used the money to buy liquor, gifts, and lunches. Lots and lots of lunches. That's on top of paying herself large bonuses out of another account that contained federal child support money. According to a source with knowledge of county operations and is close to this investigation, in order to pay out those bonuses, she needed the approval of county council, approval that she did not get. The State Ethics Commission was alerted by 2 complainants named in these allegations, one of which is Hill's former deputy clerk of court, Laura Hayes. According to the complaint, and in this screenshot I think we'll see in a second, Hayes tried to warn Hill that she was taking huge ethical risk by taking child support funds to pay herself bonuses. Here it is. Hill, who was Hayes' boss at the time, replied offhand, "I hear federal prison is comfy."
So then next up in the saga, Becky Boo decides to resign her position, and to be honest, she does it quite arrogantly and insists it has nothing to do with all of these accusations. It's all about her grandkids, and if you know, you know. So check it out with me and see what you think.
Good morning, everyone. It has been my honor and pleasure to serve as your Colleton County Clerk of Court over these past 4 years. The clerk's office has provided many services to the
Okay, I have to stop her for just a minute and say this guy behind her looks super intense, and not only that, they have the same nose and face. I'm guessing they're related.
citizens of Colleton County. The Colleton County Clerk's Office is proud of our services and the significant impacts we have made in the history of South Carolina.
Okay, we got to speed this up a bit. She rambles on.
Our civil processes. Another significant impact in our clerk's office was in 2023 when we had to manage one of the biggest trials in South Carolina history. Our small town came together and made everyone proud.
Of the national and international media, interest, and public scrutiny, and has caused me to reflect upon decisions involving my stay in the office of the Clerk of Court. And so after much reflection, I have decided that it is best not to run again for re-election. I will now be able to focus on being a wife, a mother, and grandmother to my 2 grandboys, and will be spending time with the people who mean the most to me. To announce also that my resignation as Clerk of Court will be effective immediately. Thank you.
It is what it is.
That's a hell of a legal strategy.
Who is the deputy clerk right now?
Gary Hale Jr. In fact, he's standing right behind me.
Gary, are you running? Are you planning to run for the clerk's office? I'm currently here, and I'm on the county's time, and I can't discuss that. Thank you.
Well, hey, I was right. Mr. Intense Guy is her son, and he's also the deputy court clerk and is likely going to run for her position. How interesting.
Becky, what would you say was the deciding factor in announcing your resignation today?
Oh, without a doubt, my grandchildren. If you have grandchildren, you know.
So you're saying your resignation had nothing to do at all with the investigation?
Yes, sir.
Let's take a look back real quick at some of Becky's interviews before her plagiarism and other ethical claims came out.
Love that you wrote this book. It's such a unique perspective.
Thank you.
But what made you decide to do this, to write this book?
Well, there's people that have said that a clerk of court has never written a book. And I have said back, well, why not?
This quote just made me laugh because if no one in that position has ever done it, considering all the super famous trials that have gone on, there's probably a good legal and ethical reason why. Miss Becky Boo.
Well, has been called the trial of the century, and this is so big and so huge. It needs to be told. There's so many things that went on behind the scenes, and that's what this book is mainly about.
So you heard that Alec had been practicing his crying and snot blowing before trial?
I did hear that.
Cool.
Yes. Well, he was good at it, so he must have practiced, and he did it very well, much to the jury's chagrin.
That part there seemed a little sus to me. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Alec Murdaugh is guilty and needs to stay in jail. But how would Becky know that he had practiced snot blowing ahead of time and also what the jury thought about it? I mean, she might have heard the jury simply talking about it. It just hit me as sus. What do y'all think?
And speaking of Buster, you talk about swearing Buster in before he testified, which I thought he did a great job on the stand. You know,
too.
Under what pressure he had. And you said you were trying to find something off with him, but you just couldn't.
I couldn't. No.
Yeah.
No.
So again, while I understand that all of us who watched any part of the case were trying to figure it out, Becky had an official position there, and it was not a position of juror, so she really shouldn't have been trying to find something off with Buster, in my opinion.
Is there any point that you thought Alec came off as authentic on the stand?
No. Never. No.
Yeah, you never felt like he was telling the truth about anything up there.
I really don't. And he had such a hard time answering questions that I would get very frustrated and have to get up and walk out of the courtroom.
That just seems seriously unprofessional to me. Whenever you are a clerk of court, your job is going to be to deal with difficult trials, defendants acting crazy, and all you're supposed to do is handle the jury's needs. So last year when it looked like this couldn't get any crazier, this bombshell dropped.
The son of South Carolina Clerk of Court Becky Hill, her son now has been arrested on wire tampering charges.
So this is another of Becky's sons who also worked at the Colleton County Courthouse. He was a technology director making $90,000 a year, and he's been accused of wiretapping, of listening in and recording conversations he wasn't supposed to, and Becky's cell phone has been seized. So yeah, what do y'all think about this drama? There don't appear to be a lot of updates recently, but I'll let y'all know. Now, I don't have a real personal interest in this case, other than the fact that in America, it's so important that everybody get a fair trial free of any jury tampering, because otherwise murderers can end up going free. Anyway, let me know what y'all think about the saga, Miss Becky Boo, in the comments.